Hello friends, welcome back to Spiritism for All, and today we continue with the study of the book Behind the Scenes of Obsession by Manoel Philomeno de Miranda, the Spirit, and Divaldo Pereira Franco, the psychography medium. Introduction. Spirits constantly act upon the mental world and even upon the physical world. They act upon matter and thought. They comprise one of the powers of nature and are the actual cause behind a multitude of phenomena that have been unexplainable or poorly explained until now, and which have not found a rational solution except in Spiritism. Interaction between spirits and humans is constant. Good spirits encourage us to follow the path of the good. They support us in the trials of life and help us to bear them with courage and resignation. Evil spirits, on the other hand, encourage us to take the path of evil. It's a pleasure for them when they see us succumb and fall to their level. This is written at the Spiritist's book from Allan Kardec, Introduction, Item 6, page 43, from 3rd edition of International Spiritist Council. This is the note of the spiritual author. Modern researchers of the mind, fascinated by the laboratory experiments, gradually surprise the realities of the extra-physical world. Linked, however, to the old scientific prejudices, they call the faculty through which they study such facts by the generic name of psi. Psi is a designation that gives almost infinite elasticity to the plastic resources of the mind, such as knowledge of the past, telepathy, or events that took place before and are imprinted in the minds of other people, knowledge of events from the outside world, clairvoyance, without contact with sensory impressions and perception of the future, prescience. In principle, the valuable resources of the mind in the experiences of transposition of the senses, the phenomena of prophecies and lucidity, demonstrations of tactile insensitivity and hallucinations, psychic polarizations and depolarizations carried out in epileptics and hypnotized hysterics, gave rise to hasty conclusions that seemed to confirm the characteristics of the psi. It was very easily proved through hypnological suggestion that it is possible to impress a percipient so that he assumes momentarily parasitic personifications representing figures of the history or simple people of the common people. Considering, however, in other experiences, intellectual phenomena such as cases of synoglossia or glossolalia, especially among young children, or those of a physical nature such as pneumatography, metaphonism, telekinesis, teleplasm emanations, and various phenomena within metallurgy, it appears that there is no elasticity offered to the incarnated mind that can elucidate them, except through the tacit acceptance of an intelligent external force, which, with its own will, which acts on the sensitive, granting him such possibilities. Let us show some of the terms presented. Gynoglossia is an ability claimed by some mediums, clairvoyants, etc., to speak a language with which they are unfamiliar. Glossolalia, ecstatic or apparently ecstatic utterance of usually unintelligible speech like sounds, as in a religious assembly, viewed by some as a manifestation of deep religious experience. Pneumatography, from the Greek pneuma, air, breath, wind, spirit, and grapho. This word denotes the direct writing of spirits without the use of the medium's hands. So it would be a writing done from the air, from spirits, without the use of the hands of the medium. Metaphonism. It's a parapsychology term. Hearing of voices and music that arise spontaneously from sound sources, not locatable in the mediumistic and poltergeist session. Telekinesis, the supposed inducement of movement of an object by mental or spiritual power. Teleplasm emanations, parapsychology, a hypothetical emanation from the body of a medium that serves as a means for telekinesis. Metallurgy, parapsychology again, production of objective phenomena from the Greek ergon, work, by action at a distance, could be movement of objects, ideoplasties, it's the construction or the materialization of an idea, of something that someone is imagining, turns to be material. Knocks or noises, ectoplasmic formations, that would be like ideoplasties, and direct voice. Direct voice is a voice produced directly by spirits, not using a medium. Getting back to the text. Past scholars such as William James believed that we are all immersed in a stream of cosmic consciousness, while Henrik Bergson assumed that the mind possesses a knowledge of everything, anywhere, without limitation in time or space. Very imaginative him. Giving to the brain the function of hiding such knowledge. While such phenomena linger without definite explanation, the survival of the spirit, that would be the simple explanation, after the death of the body does not find acceptance by the academies. Mental disorders of various kinds imprison clouds of people in narrow and gloomy prisons, populated by the ghosts of madness, reducing man to the primitive condition of the past. Even though the follies of reason are presented in the frenzy of all times, never, as in the present time, has man felt so disturbed. Specialists who study the psychosociological problems of the present attribute a great part of mental disorders to the tension of the hours in which one lives, increasing each day the number of psychically disturbed and emotionally stunned. This text has almost 40 or 50 years, and it's so up to date. If you imagine all the problems that derive from the lots of information that the social networks and the internet brings to us, and this text has almost 40 years old. You see how up to date it is. Naturally, that in addition to these, there are illnesses of physiological origin, like heredity, viruses and germs, the sequela of epilepsy, tuberculosis, rheumatic fevers, syphilis, traumas and shocks, who are responsible for contributing widely to madness. Beyond this, there are other predisposing factors to which they also refer that cannot be relegated to a secondary level. However, in addition to those which give rise to regrettable psychosis and neurosis, there are others that can only be explained by the Spiritist doctrine in the chapter of obsessions, studied affectionately by Allan Kardec. Making a quick survey through history about events that have been recorded in all eras of thought, even the most remote, we surprised alongside those alienated from all origins. Magicians and priests manipulating exorcisms and prayers, with which they intended to expel the tormentor spirits who delight in vampirizing or exalting their victims in an unfortunate trade between the two planes of life, the corporeal and the spiritual. The sacred books of all cultures, from the most remote Eastern antiquity, when mention the moral laws refer to extraterrestrial life, to the consolations and penalties imposed to the spirits, as if the information had been obtained from the same source, having as its only source the inspiration from the discarnated, also studying the afflictions and disturbances of spiritual origin, which date back to previous lives. Initially considered as evil angels or demons at the time of Jesus, they were classified by him as unclean spirits, which he repeatedly faced during his journey on earth. All the great thinkers, artists, writers, philosophers of the past, of religions, doctors of the Church, are unanimous in attesting to the realities of life beyond the flesh, by the unmistakable testimonies of the immortality. The spirits of the sad dead, referred to Anaxagoras, Plutarch, Socrates, Herodotus, Aristotle, Cicero, Horace, Pliny, Ovid, Lucan, Flavio José, Virgil, Dionysius of Halicarnassus, Valerio Maximus, who in their reports present abundant documentation evidences of the spiritual exchange, citing others no less famous personages of their time. Rich are the comments on the apparitions, the haunted houses, the warnings and the consultations in the shrines of all the great civilizations. Later, Lactantius, Origen, Ambrose, Basil, and Arnobius give us abundant and eloquent testimony of communications with the discarnates. The Neoplatonic school of Alexandria, through through its most expressive figures preaching the multiplicity of existences, reincarnation affirms through Plotinus, Porphyry, Iamblichus, Proclus, the continuity of life granted to the spiritual principle. The Middle Ages were full of evidence about the discarnated. Angels and unclean spirits suddenly invaded Europe and inspired and demon-possessed the soothsayers, and witches were taken to the crematory pyre without being able to extinguish them. From the first struggles between empiricism and intellectual rationalism to the atomic age, philosophers and scientists were not indifferent to the spirits. In the 19th century, however, doomed by its achievements to serve as a basis for the future, with regards to knowledge, the survival of the soul deserved the fiercest debate on the part of psychologists and psychists, inaugurating the era of scientifically controlled investigations. It was during this period that Allan Kardec invited to the struggle for culture and information, yielding the scalpel of investigation clarified with a scientific philosophy the Spiritism, based on duly proven facts, the means of obscurantism, offering a safe therapy for tormenting alienations, repeating the experiences of Jesus Christ with the demon-possessed and the sick of all kinds. He classified as obsessions the vast majority of psychic disturbances and elaborated processes for recovering the obsessed, studying the previous causes of afflictions in the light of reincarnations, through a language consistent with reason and experimentally demonstrable. The Kardec codification as a granitic monument for the centuries to come certainly did not solve the problem of man, as this is pertinent to man himself, offering, however, the basis and safe directions for him to have a happy, ethical, and socially harmonious life in the family and in the community where he has called to live. Then renowned psychists warned by the results observed in Europe and America around the fascinating subject, communicability of spirits, engaged in laborious experiments, creating some theories more compatible with their academic investiture, as substitutes for the soul, introducing them into the genetics of biology, denying to the soul the right to legitimacy. Professor Gustave Gillet, for example, created the designation dynamo-psychism, Pauli, deep consciousness, Hans Dietrich, the entelechias, and metapsychic theories came to light, in fierce antagonism to immortality, yielding weapons of sophistry and denial, without achieving, however, a positive result. The famous Professor Charles Richet, stimulated by the eminently scientific experiences by Sir William Crookes, elaborated the metapsychics, and when he said goodbye to his chair of physiology at the University of Paris, left to the future the satisfaction of confirming, denying, or unfolding his conclusions. With the advent of modern parapsychology, new substitutes have been created for the immortal spirit, and while researchers linger on the problem of the nominative designation that inspires debate and controversy, the Spiritist doctrine, teaching love and fraternity, study and knowledge of life, inspired by the immortals, stretches arms and frees from the vigorous meshes of obsession those who, by accident or ordeal, let themselves be dragged to the dark precipice of mental anarchy, disturbed or subjugated by the powerful forces of eroticity, prescribing the same moral guidelines inserted in the gospel of Jesus Christ, lived in spirit and truth.